Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel. Today is Tuesday, July 6th in Korea. I hope you guys had a great July 4th weekend. You guys know that they don't celebrate July 4th in Korea, obviously, but my friends invited me over and they cooked some amazing Hmong food for us to eat. Oh my gosh, it was so delicious. I haven't had Hmong food in such a long time. So I'm just really grateful to my two great friends for cooking all of those yummy foods for me. Anyways, the weekend is over and back to another week. For today's video, I thought I'd talk about my adult tonsillectomy surgery in Korea. I had a tonsillectomy back in 2019, so I thought maybe this information could be a little bit helpful. So before I tell you guys about my tonsillectomy surgery, let me just give you a little background so you guys kind of know my throat and nose history. So ever since I came to Korea, my sinuses and throat have been very irritated. You guys know the air quality in Korea isn't the best, so that also causes a lot of problems for me. And whenever spring comes, those pollen and allergens get into the air and I just get crazy hay fever. I mean, I have coughing, sneezing, runny nose, itchy eyes, red eyes. I am just so congested and irritated. I also get like headaches and migraines. It's just awful. And my symptoms last months and months and months. So that has been happening all throughout my time in Korea. I had allergies when I lived in America, but they were definitely not this bad. Ever since 2018, I started getting tonsillitis. So I would go to the doctor's office and they would prescribe like 3 to 5 days of antibiotics. I would take those antibiotics and then I would be fine. And then a couple of weeks later, it comes back. I kind of had those symptoms all throughout 2018, and towards the end of 2018 in wintertime, that's when my symptoms just got so bad. Like my throat was constantly swollen. I could hardly speak, I could hardly breathe, and it was just causing a real like obstruction in my throat. I had taken like so many antibiotics. At this point, those antibiotics weren't working for me anymore. One day my coworker was just like, hey, I'm gonna take you to the hospital. Let's go check and see what it is. So one day after lunch, my co-teacher took me to the big hospital by our school, and I saw the doctor, and the doctor was like, you need to get a tonsillectomy. And me and my co-teacher were both shocked. We were like, what? A tonsillectomy? Like, I thought I would just get medicine and be fine. We went back to work the next day, and my co-teacher told all of the other teachers in our office. And the teachers in my office, they told me like, you need to go check at this specialist. He's like a specialist doctor, and let's see what he says. So after a few days, me and my co-teacher, we went to see the new doctor, and the doctor said the same thing. You need to have a tonsillectomy. Anyways, I was deciding if I should have a tonsillectomy or not. I was doing a lot of research online, and then I found a doctor in Seoul. He does like acute tonsillectomies. So for acute tonsillectomy, they only cut part of your tonsils away. The recovery time is a lot quicker and you're pretty much in and out of the clinic in the same day. I thought to myself, let me just go to this doctor and see what he has to say. If I can have this acute tonsillectomy, it would be a lot cheaper and I don't have to stay in the hospital. So the weekend came and I went to see that third doctor, and he pretty much told me the same thing. Nope, you have to have a real tonsillectomy. Like, sorry, he couldn't help me. So after that, I just decided like I need to have a tonsillectomy because my tonsils are just so swollen and inflamed that it's covering my throat. I can barely breathe and talk, and you know, my job was a teacher at that time. My voice was important. I had to speak, I had to teach to my students, and I was having such a hard time just getting through classes every day because my voice and my throat were just so exhausted from trying to speak out that, you know, the only choice for me was to have a tonsillectomy. After I went back to work, I told my co-teacher that I decided to have a tonsillectomy, and she told my school, and we kind of worked everything out together. My co-teacher took me to the hospital the next day. We scheduled my surgery date, and then on that same day, I had to meet with the nurse, and she just kind of did a health assessment on me. She asked a lot of questions about my past medical history, and then we also made an appointment for like my pre-exams before surgery, and that was pretty much it. It was pretty simple. For my work, luckily at that time I was an EPIC teacher and I had really great healthcare coverage, and also if you're an EPIC teacher, you have a lot of paid sick leave available. My school was amazing and they let me take like 3 weeks off for my sick leave, and my school was kind enough to allow me to use some of my vacation days for extra rest. I think a week before my surgery, I had to go to the hospital and do a bunch of medical tests. I just had to take like a chest x-ray, get my blood pressure, urine samples, and I think they also checked like my heartbeat. I forgot what it's called, like a cardiograph or something, where they hook you up onto monitors and then they just kind of check your heartbeat rate and your rhythm, make sure everything is just normal, and that was pretty much it. All of my medical checks came back good, so I was ready for surgery the next week. My surgery date was set for May 7th and I was able to take paid leave until May 24th. The day before my surgery, I had to go and check into the hospital. I think I had to go around like 2 to 4 p.m. I remember I went to the hospital, I checked in, and then the nurses brought me to my room. I was sharing a room with 3 other people, so in my room there were 4 beds, and I think at that time there were only 2 other patients in there. It wasn't too crowded. I think the room was like big enough for all of us. I kind of like sharing my room with other people because I didn't feel as lonely since I was at the hospital by myself. After I checked into my room, I went to the nurses station and I just had to sign a lot of consent forms and agreement forms. My hospital actually had English forms available, so I was able to read and understand like everything I was signing. After signing all of the forms and getting like my weight and blood pressure measured, I was just free to roam around the hospital. I was not allowed to leave the hospital, but I was able to just go down to like the cafe or the convenience stores to buy like snacks if I wanted to. I think they make you come to the hospital the day before so that they can check all of your vitals and make sure that you fast properly before surgery. At nighttime, somebody brought me dinner, so I had the hospital dinner in my room, and the doctor also came to check on me. He just looked at my throat and he just marked where the surgery site would be for the next day. I think I also got my IV put in my arm at that time. I had to sleep that night with the IV in my arm already. The morning of the surgery, I remember it was really early, maybe 5 or 6 a.m. and the nurse came to check my blood pressure. My blood pressure was a little bit high, so she gave me some medicine to lower my blood pressure. And then I remember I had to go out in the hallway and lay down on the bed in the hallway. I went there, lay down on the bed, and then my husband had to roll my bed to the elevator where a nurse was waiting for me. We went with him in the elevator and down to the surgery room. And I can just remember like I was just laying there and waving bye to my husband while they rolled me into this room. And when they rolled me into the operating room, it was like just such a strange feeling. Like you see all of those medical equipment, and then I just remember a nurse like speaking to me and putting something on my face, and then that was it. I was just like knocked out. And then the next thing I remember is just waking up in that same room. I remember when I woke up, I was just crying. I cried and cried and cried. It was so painful. My throat had so much pain. Like I can't describe that pain. At some point, I ended up back in my room. I think they rolled me up to my room. And again, in my room, I was just crying and crying from the pain. And you guys know that adult tonsillectomies hurt a lot more than like if you're a kid. I heard that if you're a kid and you have a tonsillectomy, like you recover quickly, it's not a big deal. But adults, for some reason, it hurts a lot more and the recovery process takes a lot longer. In my case, it was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. It was just like this sharp pain in my throat, and it kind of feels like your throat has been burned. I had like this nasty burning taste in my mouth, and my throat was just so dry. Like all I wanted to do was drink water, but you know, we're not allowed to drink water for a few hours. So that couple of hours after the surgery was just horrible. And the whole time I was by myself. You know, I only had the people in my room, and they were just like Korean grandmas, and I'm very thankful to them because they were just so kind during that time. They helped me a lot because I was alone. They just comforted me and was like, it's okay, you're fine. After a few hours of crying, I was just kind of resting and laying in my bed. And then maybe at dinner time, I believe, they brought me dinner, which was just liquid. So it was like liquid Korean soup and like liquid cold like soup. I don't know, but it was disgusting. And I tried to take like a little sip of the soup, and then I just started crying again because it was so painful. And I remember the nurse came in and she saw me crying, and then the Korean grandmas in my room, they were just like, oh, she's in pain, she hurt so much, that's why she's crying. So after like 30 minutes, I think like the manager nurse came in, like she's the manager of the whole hospital, and like she checks on patients' experience in the hospital. So she just asked me like, what's wrong, like are you okay? And I was like, no, like it's so painful. So she told me like, okay, we're gonna give you a little bit more medicine so that you don't feel as much pain. And I was just like, thank you. And then I think also I was supposed to have like an ice pack for my throat, but I didn't have an ice pack at that time. So she was kind enough to give me an ice pack that I was able to put in my throat, and that helped a lot as well. In the morning, my doctors came and they just checked my throat. Everything was fine, and it was pretty much just a recovery day in the hospital. I didn't do much. I just rested and I walked around the hospital a little bit. The doctors came to check on my throat. It wasn't bleeding. Everything was looking fine. So I was cleared to leave the hospital that day. The hospital stay was very easy. My roommates were great, and I was able to just leave on the third day with no problems. After I got my IV out and changed my clothes, I had to go to the first floor of the hospital where I got my prescription medicines, and I also had to pay for my surgery. I think my surgery on that day cost 350,000 won, which is really cheap. It was pretty much covered by my insurance. When I was deciding to do this tonsillectomy, I had heard that it would cost around 2 million won. So I was very hesitant to do the surgery because it was a little bit expensive for me. But when I actually paid for the surgery and it was only 350,000 won, I was pretty shocked because I was like, I stayed in the hospital for like 3 days and it only cost this much. So after I got my medications and paid, I was able to go home, and it was just a very like easy recovery. I was just eating ice cream and soups. I didn't have any problems. When I went to check up, everything was healing fine. I had a final checkup, I think about 3 weeks after, like on May 20th. And on that day, I was actually refunded the $350 I had initially paid. And the new amount that I had to pay, I think it was like $250-ish. I don't know. I'll put it up on the screen. But anyways, the insurance covered more of the surgery, so I got a refund, and then I just paid the new price that was a little bit lower. I cannot believe a surgery and hospital stay was less than $300. It's crazy. Anyways, that was just kind of a quick little story about my tonsillectomy surgery in Korea. If you guys are also thinking about having a tonsillectomy surgery in Korea, I definitely recommend it because it is very affordable and very cheap. I know when allergy season comes, I'm just so thankful I don't have tonsils anymore because I can actually breathe and survive through the allergy season now. But I do want to mention something that may be important. Our tonsils help fight bacteria and viruses that try to come into our body. I have noticed that since I don't have tonsils anymore, I've been having a lot of stomach problems. So after my surgery, I developed a lot of digestive problems and IBS symptoms. I don't know if it's because I don't have tonsils anymore, but I did hear in a podcast that if you don't have tonsils, you can start developing bacteria in other parts of your body. And I think because I don't have tonsils, a lot of bacteria gets into my digestive system, and that's why I'm having such a hard time digesting food these days and having a lot of IBS symptoms. So that's just something to think about if you're thinking about getting a tonsillectomy. Definitely do your research and ask a lot of questions because you may encounter unexpected problems after your surgery. Alrighty, if you guys have any questions about my tonsillectomy surgery, please comment down below. I will try to help you the best I can. As always, thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time. Bye-bye.